Good morning, people, and hello to some of the new faces here. We've picked up a few over the last week or so. Appreciate that. It's nice to see a little growth around here, even as little as it is. Um, Appreciate the interesting comments and the support for the conversation. Um, it is kind of an interesting thing, an interesting perspective that I've come to hold. I generally believe that the essential facts of human life are accessible for anybody who is courageous enough to be honest and is astute enough an observer, free enough from prejudice to take a sensible appraisal of their surroundings. I believe that basically any individual who takes on the path of wanting to have an intimate relationship with reality and does so in an authentic manner, anyone who does that can actually delve out the essential facts of life pretty quickly if they are honest and courageous enough to accept the results of that inquiry. I think the only reason that we find in antiquity some of the clearest voices on that score is not that these individuals that come from the furthest reaches of times, whether they're Parmenides or Lao Tzu or whoever. Um, I'm not certain that these individuals were necessarily tremendously gifted, although they're obviously honest individuals. But they may have been more unfettered due to the cultural zeitgeist of their surroundings, meaning that their pressure that they may have felt to see the world another way was probably markedly less than it is for us. We today live in a culture, most any of us, um, that has been so dominated for so long by a worldview that is hostile to reality, and it affirms the existence of the ego and of the individual above and beyond relating for so long that that a fundamental sense of alienation is normalcy for us now. I'm not sure that's always been the case. I don't think that human beings could have survived really being as alienated from life and reality as they are now. I mean, I don't see that a poor dirt farmer can get away with that kind of alienation, but I mean, you've got to have some kind of contact with reality to function in those environments. Today, most of the people you know can interact with the synthetic environment that they inhabit more or less without consequence of there being any authenticity in their relating to other. I mean, we all have this tremendous deep sense, I believe, of this alienation and the isolation that comes with it. This is, of course, conspicuous in the attempts that drive basically the consumer economy, that of either seeking status or material wealth or this or that or the other thing. Almost always, if we are a careful observer, with the intent of seeking or bidding for some kind of connection somewhere. But it's a process that's, or a strategy that's doomed to fail because what we are doing, in fact, most of the time with those efforts and in our desperate seeking for connection with other, desperate because we have chosen to be isolated and alienated from life itself, desperate, very often the strategies that we choose are desperate and ill-informed as well, and serve both in the long and short run to make the real facts of our isolation greater, not less. And This unfortunate reflexive trend points at a very, very difficult future. Over the years that I spent in Hawaii, researching sustainable living and that sort of thing, with my little homestead project there on the Big Island, the grand mistake that I made in getting into that is I thought that the issues that faced mankind in terms of resource depletion and such were technical issues. I believed that they were technical issues and they had technical solutions. That I was wrong about that. And anyone who were to walk that path, I believe, would find the same destination or answer. And here's what you discover is that you find that if you really actually wanted to save the environment or save culture or humanity or civilization, actually there are technical solutions that would allow us to prevent the collapse of the biosphere, or at least there was 20 years ago. I'm not sure about that today. But it absolutely technically could have been done, and it was known how to do this. It's been known for 50 years how to do this and what the essential problems are, in great detail. And a lot of people, thoughtful, well-meaning people, have made the same mistake that I did, which was assuming that if you came up with intelligent technical solutions to the problems that we face, that people would embrace them. And you discover that no, they won't. Because, in fact, the reason we are on this death-seeking trajectory as a civilization has nothing to do with technical issues. The reason we are on a death-seeking trajectory is that we are a death-seeking culture that is nuts. That we are collectively insane. We are collectively isolated from reality. Suicidal, really, in fact. The problems that we face are not technical. The technical issues that we face are symptoms of this profound malaise that is psychological in nature, not technical. The technical problems that we face are due to the sum of choices of crazy, sick people, hostile to life itself, stabbing around in every direction possible, trying to get what they understand of their needs to be, I guess, to be met. It's a psychological issue, not a technical issue. And it is also, in fact, an unusually sick one. I think I can demonstrate that for you here in an observation that hopefully shows or exposes a really dangerous, unsupported assumption. And rhetorically, it kind of goes like this, okay? So let's say that you actually are in company of individuals that at least have the moral compass to look around and understand that there is destruction, wide scale destruction going on in the biosphere and the natural world, and that attitude of destruction has a tendency to permeate and bleed into all aspects of our lives. And let's say that you do have technical solutions that always will involve modesty and perhaps living smaller and being more conscious of one's footprint and impact, trying to live lives that are positive and contribute to the systemic whole rather than exploit it, okay? That's obvious. But you will still be faced with the question, and it's a interesting ethical question, and it's this, that individuals will say, well, I mean, I understand, why it might abstractly be good for me to say, think about having fewer kids or driving a smaller car or having a different career or, living in a smaller house. I mean, I understand that it would be good for me to do that, and in some small way that would be contributory to, um, a better future. But why is it that I should personally make that sacrifice? Why should I make that sacrifice, especially when other people are not going to make that sacrifice? Why is it that I should do that? And honestly, having really thought about that from a ethical point of view, it's tough to come up with a convincing argument as to why. Generally, arguments that involve the word should are weak anyway. And I don't have a great answer for that. But I do have a metaphor for that. And I think the metaphor can be educational. So let's say there's a parent who has a child, and it's the child's birthday. Okay? And the parent says, or asks me, hey, I understand it's my child's birthday, and that they'd like to go to the beach and go swimming on their birthday and maybe have an ice cream. But I've got stuff to do, and it's like, I'd rather work on my car today, or I'd rather do this or paint the house or whatever. Why is it that I should sacrifice my day for this kid? I mean, I understand that they'd probably enjoy it and be helpful for them and whatever. But why would I, give me a good reason as to why I should give up my time for this child? Well, I mean, if you heard that from a parent, you would think that they were pretty sick. Right? And indeed they are. Because what that exposes is that they don't love their child. Okay? There's no love there. You don't think in terms of interactions with other that require a giving aspect as a sacrifice when love is involved. It's not a sacrifice to spend the day with your child. That is something a loving parent does with an attitude of joy, in spite of the real reality that there might be a personal cost. And the same applies to the systemic whole and to the life process. If one actually has a loving relationship with it, to act in a manner that might be contrary to one's own, material needs in the short term, isn't a sacrifice. It's an opportunity to give to something that you love. It's an opportunity that has the emotive quality of joy, not sacrifice. By thinking immediately, knee-jerk, that it is a sacrifice, demonstrates that the relationship with life is hostile. If it wasn't hostile and it was based on love, it wouldn't be a sacrifice. And in this lies, I think, one of the fundamental keys to unlocking the answers to this puzzle. What is it that we can personally do to rekindle this relationship with life? Where is it that we, along our developmental path, where along our paths have we adopted the idea that life itself is something that we need to be hostile to? Where have we encountered that set of circumstances that has caused us to be alienated? what is it that we can do to rekindle that relationship? I don't think it's that hard to do if you understand that the task is necessary. If one completes that task, I think that a lot of these issues fall into place quite quickly, or at least the solutions begin to emerge. I'm just going to leave that with you this morning as something to reflect on. I hope that's a useful observation. Has been for me. If we do not rekindle a life-seeking relationship with reality, if we don't find ourselves fundamentally as co-participants with the life process, if we don't discover a means of integrating that value into our culture and civilization, there's not a lot of hope. Psychological issues, not technical issues, internally, externally, and in our society. Something to think about, people. I hope you have a good day.